Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Ahmed Mawar aka Mr. Middle Path, and for this video I wanted to give a brotherly advice to all of you as I got fatherly advice to me. And after reflecting on this advice and talking to other people about it, I wanted to share it with you. And there has been a focus nowadays on the outward sunnah, right? Following the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the outward appearance, a big focus on the beard, a big focus on how you look and how you dress. And while these are good things, the excessive focus on it to the detriment or ignoring the internal sunnah, such as your intention, your thought process, your niyyah. Are you doing this to show off? Are you doing this for the sake of Allah purely? Is your intention to give sadaqah? What's your intention, right? That's an example of an internal sunnah. Another example of an internal sunnah is being humble, right? Being brave. These types of internal sunnah, right? So the focus on the external sunnah to the detriment of the internal sunnah shows a shallowness of thinking, and I'll explain what I mean very shortly. So take, for example, a lot of brothers like to wear their pants above their ankle, right? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that whatever is below the ankle is in the fire, meaning the fire of hell. And the purpose of this, when I ask someone, what's the purpose of this, right? So it was well known that in the past, during the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and before that, and even after that, kings and rich people would have the very long flowing gown or the very long flowing cape that dragged on the floor as a means of showing off, right? And even nowadays, you'll see someone with big baggy clothes or extra clothes walking with what? Swag, as they say. And the interesting thing is that you might have someone say, yeah, I'm on the sunnah, I'm gonna wear my pants above my ankle, which is good. But they don't have humility. So by wearing your pants above your ankle and not having humility, you are canceling out the action of wearing the pants above the ankle, because you did the external action, the external appearance, which was to wear the pants above the ankle. But the internal goal of wearing the pants above the ankle, which was humbleness and humility, you did not fulfill that. Thus you have cancelled out your action. And can actions be cancelled out from intention? Of course they can. Imagine someone is donating money to a poor person, and he's doing it, but when he does it, he is doing it because he wants people to look at him in a certain type of way, or think that, oh, he's a giving person. This is called riyā. Riyā cancels out actions. It's also a form of minor shirk, and it is actually very easy to fall into, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. So you will have one group of people, right, or one type of thinking, which is that I'm going to do the external sunnah, and then they forget to fulfill the internal purpose of these sunnahs, right? And on the other hand, you will have people who think that I can fulfill the internal purpose without doing the external commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are usually moderate Muslims, liberal Muslims, however you want to call them, and sometimes just normal Muslims who may not really know better. An example of this is the hijab, right? So with the hijab, you might have, what is the purpose of the hijab? Woman covers up her hair so that no one sees it, and she dresses modestly so that no one sees her figure or her body, right? Dressing responsibly and not, what's the word I'm looking for? Exposing herself to other people, right? Covering herself because she's valuable, and actually deeper than that, because the human being is sacred. So you don't want to cheapen yourself by exposing yourself to people like that. And now you have people who will say, Muslims who will say, okay, well, the purpose of hijab is modesty, which is true. So I don't have to wear hijab, I can just be modest, right? I can just, not talk to guys that much, dress modestly, right? Like not show off my body, but I don't actually have to wear the hijab itself. I don't actually have to cover my hair. And this is wrong, right? And the reason that it's wrong is because it's as if you are saying that you know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're saying, I know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me to do this to be modest, but I'm not going to do that to be modest. I'm going to do this thing instead, right? So, very interestingly, the idea that Allah can say something to achieve a purpose for you, right? And that you will say, okay, well, I'm going to achieve that purpose by doing something else, and thinking that that is right, is a delusion of our time, right? And a lot of people have fallen into this trap. And the hijab is just one example. There are many examples, right? Just this Ramadan, for example. Just this Ramadan, there was a huge thing. In America, here, we saw the moon was sighted in California on Tuesday night, right? So Ramadan started on Wednesday for us. The people in Arabia, in Egypt, and the family that I talked to, they didn't sight the moon at all in that area. So they started Ramadan, completed the month of Sha'ban and started Ramadan on Thursday. And in America, there's a couple of organizations that believe in sighting through calculations, right? And even though the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in hadiths not to use calculations, and that specifically to sight the moon, right? And the technology of calculating, of astronomical calculations of when the moon would arise, was available during the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and was available during the time of the Khulafa al-Rashidun from the technologies and the mathematics of the other people and the conquered people, that they had access to these sciences. And even during the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, before those conquests, they still had access to those sciences, right? But they didn't use it anyways. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that we see it, we know when the day is by looking at the moon, by sighting it specifically. And someone said, oh, well, you have some scholars who look at the letter of the law, and some scholars who look at the spirit of the law. And he was trying to make the argument for calculating the moon, because calculating the moon is precise and exact, and that by doing it, we are fulfilling the spirit of the law, which is to know exactly when the moon is at a crescent, thus signifying the beginning of Ramadan. And the problem with his argument is that you cannot say we follow the spirit of the law and use that to override the letter of the law. Does this make sense? You cannot use the spirit of the law to override the letter of the law. This cancels it out. This is not correct. This is as if you are saying you know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because even if calculating the moon was correct, and there's actually differences in the calculations, it's not 100% accurate, there are other reasons why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us to sight the moon. It's not only so that we can exactly know when Ramadan starts, but there are other reasons why sighting the moon is important, and that's a different topic. I don't want to get into that. And on the flip side, implementing the letter of the law while ignoring the spirit of the law, or what is the purpose of these laws, is also canceling out the purpose or the effect and the good deed that you would get. You wouldn't get it otherwise. You might even get a sin for it, such as, for example, the example of someone who wears his pants above his ankles but has no humbleness, has no humility, and acts arrogantly towards other people, right? One of them is, perhaps you may have noticed in the video, kuhl, right? So I will end with this last. I'll give you two more examples. We'll make this a little bit of a longer video today, since I haven't posted in a while. But Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wore the kuhl, right? And he used to do it as a treatment for the eyes, right? Swipe 3 times in the right eye and 3 times in the left eye. And he said in a hadith that it improves your eyesight, or improves your vision, and it stimulates growth of the eyelashes. Now, I used to think to myself, man, I'm going to do it, I'm going to wear it, I don't care, right? But upon learning more and receiving the fatherly advice, I realized that for the kuhl, because it's not a command, it's not a command, it's a good thing to do. That me wearing the kuhl, right, what's the purpose of it? To follow the sunnah out of love of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and also to improve my vision and help with the eyes, because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used it as a treatment. Now, if I was to go out in the streets as I am now, right, and people see me, I might be drawing too much attention to myself, unwarranted attention to myself. You know, if I was wearing normal clothes and I had this, maybe someone would think I'm some kind of Satan fire worshipper or something, even though obviously, alhamdulillah, I'm not. So, in the case of the kuhl, I don't necessarily have to wear it. I don't necessarily have to use it. I can decide to not wear it because I'm not ordered to do it. Such as growing out the long hair. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ grew out his hair, and it was said that it was parted in the middle as well. But you don't have to do it. It's good to do it, but if you're living in a country, for example, where you might get arrested for having long hair, and this is actually the case in some countries, I will not say the name, but if you do have long hair and a beard and you look like me, you will not be able to walk the streets for more than an hour without getting picked up by the police and questioned. So, if you do live in a country like that, it may be better for you not to have this. Because why? The purpose of it was to help your eyes. Now, if you're doing it and you're not fulfilling the purpose and you're actually causing trouble for yourself, then maybe it's better to avoid it. Why don't we do this for the beard, though? Because the beard is an order. Thus, we cannot use the same logic for something that is not an order, for something that is an order. The last thing I want to say, all of this, is I want you to think about the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was ordered by a prophet, was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to slaughter his son, right? He did not tell himself, oh, well, you know, my son is just a metaphor for getting rid of my attachments, right? I just have to get rid of my attachments, and I don't really have to slaughter my son. He's just a metaphor. I just get rid of my attachments and purify myself from my attachments so I can get closer to Allah. No, he understood, I actually have to do it. But at the same time, how did he do it? When it's mentioned in the Quran, he went up to his son and he said, I saw in a dream that I'm slaughtering you, because prophets, when they see something in a dream, it's a command, different than when we see something in a dream. I saw in a dream that I'm slaughtering you. What do you think? So he's asking his son, as a human being now, what do you think about this? And his son said, you know, do what you need to do. I'm with you. I'm supporting you. So they went together, and his son knew what was coming. And the way that it was done, with mercy, with humility, speaking to his son as a human being, not just grabbing him or tricking him, but talking with him, right? Is he's fulfilling this internal purpose. The internal purpose and the external command go hand in hand together. You must do both. You cannot be someone who says, oh, I'm gonna be modest and I'm not gonna wear the hijab, and you cannot be like the other side, I'm gonna wear the hijab but I'm gonna flirt with a million guys, right? This is for the sisters. Obviously for the guys, you have other examples, wearing the beard but not acting the way that they should act, not behaving the way that they should act, and on the other side, shaving it off, despite the fact that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said grow it out, but acting with good manners and good behavior. You need both. You have to have both, and it is both an important thing. And apply this logic to everything in life, and including Ramadan. Are you doing Ramadan? Are you fulfilling the internal purpose of Ramadan, which is to get closer to Allah and to purify yourself of bad habits and to develop new habits and many other internal purposes for Ramadan? Or are you just not eating and drinking for most of the day? So with that, brothers and sisters, I hope that this was beneficial, and I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fast and accept our good deeds and accept our Ramadan, and to forgive us for our bad deeds and purify us and bring us closer to Him. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.